What comes to mind when you hear the words humility and selfless love? Picture a person who is humble. This isn't someone who belittles themselves or hides their talents, but rather someone who recognizes their own strengths and weaknesses and still chooses to put others first. They listen more than they speak. They seek to understand before being understood, and they're quick to offer help and slow to demand credit. Now imagine a person displaying selfless love. This individual gives without expecting anything in return. They look past their own needs and desires, focusing instead on how they can enrich the lives of others. They love without conditions, without boundaries, and without end. These virtues aren't just lofty ideals, they're practical principles that can guide our daily interactions and decisions. They help us build stronger relationships, foster community, and lead fulfilling lives. In the Christian faith, one figure exemplifies these virtues more than any other: Jesus Christ. Consider the humility of Christ, who, despite being the Son of God, chose to live a simple, humble life. Picture for a moment the intimate setting of the Last Supper. Christ, aware of his divine status, does something unthinkable. He stoops down and begins to wash the feet of his disciples. This task, generally reserved for the lowest of servants, was taken up by Christ himself. Why, you might ask? It was to illustrate a profound lesson, a lesson of humility and service. Here was the Son of God, the one who could command legions of angels, willingly lowering himself to serve his followers. He did not consider his status something to cling to, but rather used his position to demonstrate the importance of serving others. This story serves as a reminder that true humility involves lowering oneself for the sake of others. It's not about diminishing our worth, but about elevating the worth of those around us. Now let's turn our attention to the selfless love of Christ. The story of Christ's crucifixion, as told in John 19, is an unparalleled testament to this profound love. Here we see Christ, a figure of divine standing, willingly enduring unimaginable pain and suffering. But why? The answer lies in his deep, unyielding love for humanity. His crucifixion wasn't a moment of defeat, but rather a triumphant act of selfless love. With every nail that was driven into his hands and feet, with every insult hurled his way, Christ bore it all. He bore it not out of obligation or necessity, but out of pure love for every single one of us. His sacrifice wasn't just about saving us from our sins. It was about demonstrating the length and breadth of his love. A love so vast that it was willing to endure the cross. In giving his life, Christ showed us that selfless love means putting others' needs above our own, even to the point of personal sacrifice. So what does Christ's example of humility and selfless love mean for us today? It means we can choose to live inspired by his virtues every day. It means we can display humility by putting others before ourselves, and express selfless love through acts of kindness, even when it's hard. It means we can let go of comparison and embrace love and humility. In living out these virtues, we reflect Christ's love and humility, creating a world that is kinder, more compassionate, and more loving.